First and foremost, I wanted to express my gratitude for all the wonderful submissions that I have received so far. You could still submit your project without being penalized for being late. And also I wanted to point out that the project is called The Very Ugly Bug. And what I've been receiving so far are a whole bunch of really cute pictures of bugs. They're so well drawn, there's so much talent. But this is the one time where you could have drawn anything and turned it in and it still would have counted. Because it's called The Ugly Bug. But I sure do appreciate all the submissions that I've received so far. Today I thought I would walk you through my thought processes and also the steps that I took to create my own ugly bug. As you know, I chose a dung beetle as my ugly bug. And after I completed step 1, the drawing of the dung beetle on the board, I am now ready to move on to step 2, which is constructing my dung beetle. But before I actually start the construction process, I need to figure out what kind of materials I want to use. Now for my dung beetle, I wanted to choose something that would reflect the actual dung beetle itself, the actual physical characteristics of the dung beetle. And so after searching the classroom a little bit, I came across a tub of buttons, and I thought maybe if there was enough buttons that I would be able to construct that dung beetle out of those buttons. Fortunately, there were enough. I've got 3 tubs of them, and if any of you need to use buttons, I'll be more than happy to send some to you. Now, once I found my buttons, okay, I had to sort through them all and pull out the color that I wanted to use, which was mostly black. It took me about 30 minutes to pull out what I thought would be enough black buttons to complete my project. So I had to dump them out. It took me some time to sort through all of these buttons and pull out what I thought was enough buttons to create my beetle. So, just like I had to sort. It took me some time to sort through all of these buttons and pull out what I thought was enough buttons to create my beetle. So, just like I had to sort through the. And just like that, I've got them all separated. Now, unfortunately, the first time I separated the buttons, I thought I had enough to create my ugly bug. But what I discovered was that I needed to do this at least 3 more times to collect enough buttons to complete the project. So that might be something that you run into trouble with. It's much better to have more of the material than to just kind of use what you have and create something that is less than impressive. The next problem I had was this giant mess that I had created, and it took some time to clean it up. Luckily, we don't have that kind of time right now. So, now that that part's over, the next step was to try and figure out how to put my bug together so that I could give it mass or give it its form. So I had to look around for something to build upon. I had to look for an armature. Now, an armature is a type of structure that you build your sculpture upon to help keep its shape while you're in the building process. So I hunted around the house and looked and looked and looked, and I came across some of my kids' Easter candy. But if you look at the egg shape, notice that it's round, it's already cut in half, and it's about the same size that I'm looking for as far as the project is concerned. So, after they finished eating their candy, I stole their egg and used it as my armature. Alright, so for the first thing we needed to do was crack into this puppy. There we go. Probably should have used a video edit right there. Put aside the trash. Pop open the sucker. We'll put aside the candy for right now, come back to that. Who am I kidding? These things are so good. My kids won't miss them. After I figured out what I wanted to use for my armature, I had to look at my reference picture again to see if it really did match the shape of the bug that I wanted to use. And when I looked at the picture, I noticed that the shape wasn't quite there. Okay, so this is a dung beetle, not an egg beetle. And so I had to cut this armature, or this egg, a little bit to get to the shape that I wanted. So fortunately, I was able to just cut this one with scissors. Doesn't matter if it does cracked. No one's gonna see it. All right. So now I have two parts. I have the back side and I have the front side. And I could shift these and manipulate them however I wanted to. Okay, the head of the beetle isn't very big, and so I knew that I wasn't going to need anything to build that upon. All right, now, once I had my armature, I had to figure out a way to attach the buttons or put the buttons together to give my bug mass, and also to connect them so that they all stay together. Now, some of the examples that I gave, like in the deer, if you look on Google Classroom, the entire deer was made out of buttons but connected with thread. So there's a lot of different possibilities that you could use to connect your materials together. I happen to choose hot glue because it's the easiest and fastest to put things together. Now, whatever you choose, please be sure and follow all the safety guidelines and common sense that you have available. I'm using a hot glue gun. I've got it on a base, I've got it supported, and I'll be paying as close attention as I can to the hot tip so that I don't burn myself. So all I need to do at this point is take the hot glue, put a little hot glue on the armature, and begin putting my buttons on it like that. Now, as I put the buttons on, and started working on the second layer here, or second row, I noticed a couple of things. One was that I could still see the armature underneath, and I didn't want that to happen. And so after I covered the whole thing with buttons, I went ahead and put a second layer on to cover up all those spots so that you couldn't see the armature underneath, because I found it to be distracting. The other thing that you need to understand is that originally I wanted to just use buttons. But as you could tell, after having hot glued all the buttons on there, it was very difficult to peel them off. And so I just left the armature there. Okay, that became part of my piece. So if that has to happen to you, don't worry about it. I'm not going to count off for that, unless it becomes distracting from the overall work of art.